Okay, let's get right into it. So let's say we're trying to make something like this, but we want to make our own um, dividers. Uh, this actually gives you the idea of how we're going to do this, but we're going to do it by adding our own. So first things first, you want to make your box height whatever you want. I'm just gonna say, and remember it's gotta fit inside the locker. But for this, I'm just gonna make it like, oh, I don't know, 6 by, yeah, 2. I'm just evening this out. It'll make it easier for me. And then depth, 3. All right, so it's like a little drawer or something. And then I'll just demo how to do like slides across. I'm using finger slats. You can do flat or T-slat, but finger slats do give you a little bit more contact area and they will hold together better. So I'm just going to leave it as finger slats. But if you're doing this with fingers, you do need to know the material thickness. It's about 1/8 inch. It's probably closer to 0.125 on most of our boards, but that's fine. So we're going to download this SVG. Great, we have it. Now over in Curve, I have a pumpkin here. We'll use that in a sec. We're going to do a new project, and we're going to import our recent file that we just downloaded. So we got to go to our downloads, and we got to open this box. Okay, now we know that this is the bottom, and these are the sides. So this is a great starting point. I want the drawers to go, or the slots to go like across. So what we need to do is we need to first make sure our units are in something we understand. So we're going to be working in inches. And what we need is a divider that goes across the distance from here to here. Let me zoom in. From here, the interior perimeter, to there. Okay? Now, we could do this one of two ways. We could just make them like fit, right? And that would work. Or we give them a little lip at the top and then slide them into the tops of here. We're going to try it like that, and we'll see if we can get it right. We're going to use these dimensions as kind of a starting point. Okay, so here's how we're going to do this. We're going to copy one of these, and now that we have this copy, this is going to be our first little slide drawer. We do not want the full height. We want it to rest on this baseline. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to start to delete some of these nodes. Okay? So this might take a little bit of trial and error. We also want to keep this interior perimeter of the of this box. So we're going to just start deleting some of these nodes. So this node we're going to get rid of. We're going to get rid of this node, this node. You can see that now we're starting to make a line down. We're going to get rid of this node. We're going to get rid of this node, this node. Okay, and this node. Well, we're going to move this node up to there. Okay, you'll see why. We're going to get rid of this node, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. This one. We're going to move this one up. We're going to get rid of this one, this one, this one, this one, and that one. Okay, now what we have is something that would not fit in our box unless we do something to this. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut little slots into this thing, okay? Now, if you notice, these are both identical. This is identical to this. Now, to get this to make sure that it lines up correctly, what I'm actually going to do is, once I have how many of these I want, I'm going to duplicate it after I'm done. But the first thing we need to do is make a slot for this piece to slide into this piece. So we're going to, this extends out. What we need to do is cut a hole here. So, and then we need to also know how big that hole is. Well, to know the width of that hole, we actually just can take a rectangle and make it the same size as our thing here. In fact, I'm going to just make it a teensy tiny bit bigger, just so I know that it's going to fit. Okay? Great. So now that we have this, we're going to do the following. We're going to pick a spot here where that's going to be the divider. Remember, this is the long ways of this thing. Okay? So I want to divide this not in half, but I want to divide it like maybe into a third, maybe, roughly. Okay, so that looks good to me. Now, what do we do now? I'm just going to move it there. What do we do now? Well, we take these two objects and we subtract them from each other. And what we just did was now we have this gap. Now we only have the gap on the one side, so this side will fit in. But we need that gap on this side too. So what we need to do is get rid of this one, copy this one, and duplicate it. And we just did that. And now we know that these two pieces are going to line up perfectly when we fit them into our box here. Now, if you're not using finger joints, this is going to be a little bit trickier. You're going to actually have to measure out this distance, and it's a little trickier, but it's doable. You just make sure that the width of this is 0.125 or 0.127 or something that's bigger than the piece of wood itself so that it'll fit into it. And that's it. But now you might be wondering, how can I make this really unique? So maybe I'm going to put some mushrooms in part of this. And I want to make sure that this looks cool. So we're going to change this font here to something that makes me think of mushrooms. Maybe this one. That one looks cool. Okay, cool. That looks great. Now what we need to do is we need to change this from being a font-based text element to just something that the laser will recognize. So we just did that by clicking on path and then outline text. Now this is actually an outline. We can actually go in and we can modify parts of it if we really wanted to. If we zoom in, you can see there's a bunch of nodes in here, but if we go in, we can edit this and stretch things out if we really wanted to. Okay. So now we have our text that will be right now, because this is blue and this is red, we can make this an engraving, or if we wanted it to be cut, we would just select all of it and make it red. So now that is going to be cut as well. But there is something else we can do. We can go and we can hop online, go somewhere, and look up a SVG file. Silhouettes work really well here. So what I would say is you can pop in to just Google and look up an SVG of a silhouette of something you want to put on here that would make sense for what you're doing. I did have a pumpkin somewhere, but I don't know where it is. So what we're going to do is, let's say we downloaded an SVG, or let's even say that we just took a screenshot. What we can do is we can go to our files, find the file that we want. Now, in this case, I know that I took a screenshot of this. It wasn't perfect, but I actually turned it into an outline SVG silhouette. But silhouettes are kind of good if you're cutting, if you wanted to cut it out. But if you wanted to just engrave it, what we can do is we can go and open an SVG. The problem with an SVG, though, is it's a graphic that the laser cutter really doesn't get. It doesn't understand what's going on here. So what we need to do is over on the right-hand side, we're going to auto trace it. This really works best if you only have one color going on. Let me do that again. And also make sure that the mode is in the sketch mode. So we're going to auto trace. Now I'm going to copy this. This opens up in a new tab. Let's just pop back over here. And we can go over and we can add our pumpkin to the front of this thing. You can see here that I know that I'm already aligned, but if we wanted to align this right to the middle, boop, we can align it to the middle that way. And now it's right in the middle. Now, being that this is a different color than the perimeter that's red, this is going to get engraved. So this is how you can add images. This is how you can add text. And just make sure that if you are adding an image that's not an SVG, that you do convert it over from the PNG or JPEG to a path by, again, it's this auto trace feature. It should pop up as soon as you select the object you've imported. And then you pop back over and you import. If it's an SVG, we can just copy it and go in, and then let's say I want this actually cut out. We can go ahead. I'm holding shift to keep the dimensions of this, by the way. We can take this and turn it red, and now that's going to be a hole. Okay, so hole versus whatever this is, engraving, and that's it. Now, once you're finished, you are going to want to export this as a curve file. Now, you might not have that option. So how do you get there? Because you're not going to have the option to export as an SVG. What you do is you go and click on Home, and you're going to see your file right here. On this file, you're going to right-click. You're going to click Control-Click, and you're going to export to curve, and that's the file we need, and that's the file you'll send to me, and then I'll convert it to an SVG and open it up and then laser cut it. So look for some images that you might want to add as much text as you want, make sure you have your gaps in there as you need, and that's it. Good luck.